Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
Okay, so last time I talked to you, I typed you as an ISFP
Yes. Yes, you did.
with the acknowledgement that you had rather the affect of an INFJ, and that those two types could be somewhat difficult to tell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you thought since then?
Okay, before I lose this, um, I watched Fire Force yesterday.
Uh huh.
You know, when I first scrolled by it, I wasn't sure if I'd like it. I'd scrolled by it before you had mentioned it, and I thought, because you said something, I'll give it a try. I also looked for someday. It's called Someday, and then there's another part, but it was taken off Netflix, and so I was looking for the dog episode.
Oh,
So
yeah, the
if
dog's
you
name is
know,
Kong.
if you can find that episode,
I'll find it for
email it to
you.
me, send it to me. So I was looking for it,
I'll
but I
find it
watched Fire
for you.
Force, and Fire Force it was not what I imagined it would be, but I was hooked in the first like 3 minutes. That opening scene, it definitely like the graphics, the superpowers, the main character. The only thing that throws me are like sharp teeth. Not really
Mm.
sure why he had sharp teeth, but
Mm.
no, good recommendation. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that somebody took a recommendation and liked it.
Yeah,
Um,
no, enjoyed it.
okay, so what have you been thinking about your type since our conversation?
Okay, so I initially considered the possibility of ISFP, but it was really the stereotypes that were throwing me. The FISC stereotypes of always wanting to like express yourself artistically, and I'm not artistic, and so
That's complete
that was
bullshit.
okay. See, all right, that definitely helps. Definitely helps, and so I understood the any polar situation is because I was any polar. That's why you lean towards the two SP types. And so I just wanted to confirm it was ISFP and not ISTP, right?
Right. Well, that's another. Yeah, that's a separate issue that could be, I could be wrong about. So your TI was quite strong,
Okay.
um, stronger than I'd expect from an ISFP. Uh, as far as the FIFE issue goes, though, that's
Mhm.
another way to distinguish between ISTP and ISFP is
Okay.
to try to figure out whether your extroverted feeling or your introverted feeling is front stack.
Okay.
Can you talk to me some about your own thoughts on how you're perceived on an ongoing basis?
My own thoughts on how I'm perceived. I would say my thoughts about the way that people perceive me. Um, I'm just ultimately confused at how people perceive me because I'm not sure what people see whenever they have different perceptions of me. I'm not sure what I'm showing them, but whenever people do perceive me differently, such as in this interview or the last interview, you said ISFP, and so when I had been typed previously, I'd been typed ISTP, and so I was wondering what did I show you that I might not have shown them, or what did I show them I didn't show you,
Hmm.
or I'm just not.
Well, I mean, the difference is I'm not typing you based on what I perceive. I'm typing you based on the results I get from the typing questions. And sometimes that's in contrast with what I perceive. So it's like I perceive you as kind of FE, but that's not inconsistent with you being FE fifth. ISFPs are typically very well liked. The whole creative thing. The
Mhm.
fact is, if an ISFP is inclined to create stuff, they probably will. And
Okay.
so maybe that's why they get the reputation. Whereas an INFP is definitely inclined to create stuff, but probably won't.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So So typically, ISTPs are somewhat worried about how they're perceived, and feel as though they're kind of misunderstood because their fourth slot FE is kind of rough from other people's perspectives.
Okay. Okay.
Does that resonate with you as something that you stress out about?
It's something that I stress out about. I don't wouldn't say it's something that I stress out about. I honestly don't think I stress out about much, if anything at all.
Okay. What's your relationship with alcohol?
So I'm 26. I didn't start drinking until 23, 24. And I was never interested, and I would actually look down upon people who did drink until I started drinking. And so now I hate the taste of it, but I enjoy the way that it makes me feel.
And how often do you think you feel the need to drink?
I don't ever feel the need to drink.
Okay, well, how often do you think that sounds like a good idea?
Uh, it's when I'm alone, I never think about drinking. I never think it's a good idea. It's really whenever I'm with my significant other and whatever we're doing. Sometimes we'll add alcohol into it to enhance whatever we're doing. So if we're playing games, if we're going somewhere, and we might like take a shot before we go, um, that's really the only time I'll do it is if I'm with her.
Okay. The next day after you've drank,
Hmm.
do you feel reset or just hungover?
I never feel reset. I always think to myself the next day, I'm not going to do this again. Um, my stomach hurts, my head hurts, but I don't feel as though what I've seen hangovers look like in movies or in TV. Like I don't feel that. I don't feel like, oh, I'm about to die. My head's hurting. I need to go throw up. It's just I would say it's probably the same feeling of like eating a lot of junk food at night, and then when you wake up the next morning, your body just feels like sluggish.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
All right. So, how engaged are you with politics?
I'm not engaged with politics at all.
Okay. How often just do you negate things that people say? Like, if somebody says something that's obviously bullshit, are you going to say something or are you just going to let it sit there?
I'll probably ask why they said it, and I'll probably try to figure out if they actually believe it, and if so, like what led you to believe this. And so I'll ask questions about it, and then it really just depends on how passionate they are about it.
So, what if I told you that, you know, earwigs, you know those bugs? Earwigs?
Nope. Ear, say that again.
They're called earwigs or pincher bugs sometimes.
Okay, what are those?
I'll show you a picture of them.
Okay.
You've probably seen them before.
Okay.
They're fairly common. Let's see here.
Okay.
Alright, so I will share my screen.
Okay.
Have you ever seen those bugs before?
No, I have not.
Oh. Well, they're really common around here.
Okay. Where are you?
Los Angeles.
I'll make sure I stay out of Los Angeles.
So, what if I were to tell you that the reason some people are deaf is because earwigs crawl into their ears and bite their eardrums?
I would ask you, why do you have you seen that happen before? Why would you say that?
Because earwigs like warm, enclosed spaces, and they've got those pincher things. So when they're in there, it's just natural they're going to pinch your eardrum.
Well, that could very well be a possibility why some people are deaf. If that really happens, I really would know. But
It doesn't.
that's not the sole reason. Oh, okay. So that's not the sole reason why people are deaf. But I could see that being a possibility.
When I was a little kid, all of the kids in my neighborhood believed that. We all
Well,
believed that earwigs made you deaf, and so you couldn't put them near your ear or they'd make you deaf.
oh, by putting them near your ear or crawling in your ear.
Well, if you put them near your ear, they might crawl in,
Then,
is the point,
yeah,
you know.
I
But of
can do that.
course, I think that was primarily because they're called earwigs.
Oh, well, that is also. I mean, I understand it.
Yeah.
Somebody
Okay.
deaf, especially because I've never seen one or I don't know anything about them.
Where do you think people came from?
Where do I think people came from? Like the beginning of time, like the evolution of people.
Yeah, do you ascribe to evolution?
Um, oh, that's right, it's evolution. I'm uncertain of the beginnings of humankind. Truthfully,
What do you think about simulation theory? That this is all just a simulation.
I I do think that this is all a simulation. In a way, I feel like I would have no way of knowing. However, I think that that's a real possibility that we can be in a simulation.
Well, you know what I think's weird is until 66 million years ago, the Earth had extinction events approximately every 40 million years. And it really seems like somebody was trying to play Sim Earth and kept ending up at dead ends and having to start over. And then finally they got intelligent life, and that's why we haven't had an extinction event, even though it's 66 million years.
66 million years. That's a really long time. Um,
Well, it's a long time if you're waiting in line.
are you saying that humans have been around for 66 million years?
No, I'm saying that the fossil record indicates a large extinction event 66 million years ago that basically reset the worlds to like corals, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that it had reset every 40 million years prior to that. But in this last reset, you know, finally they got humans, and now there hasn't been an extinction event. So it kind of seems like the person was trying to play this game and then was trying to make humans, but they kept failing and starting over.
Hmm. And so finally made humans, and here we are.
And
Would you
yeah,
say that same person is still uh, at the controller, or do you think they made humans and was like, all right,
no, I think they're still playing, and I think they're gonna unlock aliens pretty soon.
unlock aliens? Okay. Do you have you experienced? Do you have any experiences with like psychedelics or anything?
Yeah, sure, I've done lots of drugs.
Okay, so would you say like on a trip you've had any type of astral experience where you've experienced like beings or
No,
sacred geometry? No, none of that.
I smoked plenty of DMT, and that stuff's all bullshit.
Really?
Yeah,
So what were your trips like?
I mean, look, it's DMT is a huge serotonin rush, is what it is. And
Okay.
so, depending on the experience, sometimes it makes you feel enlightened.
Okay.
But the mistake that people make is to afford too much meaning to those drug trip experiences. Those drug trip experiences are high resolution experiences, which means they may be impactful to you personally, but they
Hmm.
don't communicate well. And when people try to communicate about them and pretend as though they're representative of some universal truth, they're
Mm,
barking up the wrong tree. Drugs aren't for magic, drugs are for partying.
okay, that is one way to look at it. I see that. Have you written anything down or drawn anything like while you were on your trips?
No, I've never been very attentive to the visual aspects of things. So,
Oh,
even back when I took acid and had some really hard trips, it was
mm-hmm,
never about, I was still me, you know? I was
mm-hmm.
still ideating. I'm still not an NI type, so I don't see things as revealing singular truths. I see all the other possibilities. And I've had some weird trips. The most magical drug, I think, is mushrooms.
Okay.
It feels magical to me but it's on a really personal level. Like, it feels like like I have this, I guess you'd call it a belief. It's not really a belief per se, but that
Okay.
mushrooms turns your metaphysical mia into
Okay.
physical mia that you then have to puke.
Okay.
And so I always find it cleansing to do mushrooms. It's like I
Mm.
finish it the next day. I feel like that cleared things up.
But it's never changed your perspective at all, the way
No,
you see the world.
temporarily it's made me more chill or less dragging with me dread. I don't know the extent to which you experience this, but I think to a certain extent most people have some areas of their life that cause them to carry around dread, things they're worried about, things that are coming up that are looming maybe that they have to deal with,
Mhm.
or just a sense that they're not fulfilling their potential or whatever, just existential
Mhm.
dread. And mushrooms seems to eliminate that for a few days, you know?
For a few days.
Yeah, but it's not a change of perspective. It's not a mapping change. That's the mistake. People think that you can make
Okay.
mapping changes purely on experience, but experience doesn't fully map, and the map shouldn't be derived from extreme experiences like that. Those are things that deviate from what we can map.
Okay, so what do you think about like spiritual experiences whenever someone um I would say like in church they have like an awakening moment, or someone who is in a temple and they have what they would call a spiritual awakening. They then go on and view the world differently based on having that awakening. What do you think about that?
Um, I think that's well, okay. I quit drinking, and I wouldn't have been able to do so without adopting as a habit the faith-based behavior of prayer. But
Okay.
that it would be a mistake to think that I learned some truth that cascaded down. Instead, I practiced humility, and that was not really a shift in worldview, as an acceptance of a tool I theretofore hadn't accepted.
Mm.
But I get that NI people are much more likely to frame it the way you're framing it, as having a cathartic moment or a moment of transformation that
Hmm.
then proceeds forward from there. As an SI type, I remember too much all the details. So there was no singular moment. It was a progression of gradually shifting paradigms, and ultimately my paradigms didn't have to move very much. I found a way to incorporate magical thinking into my metaframe without becoming non-rational.
Non-rational. Okay. Okay. So do you think the other way of thinking is non-rational?
Yeah, it's not irrational, right? It's
Hmm.
non-rational. It becomes irrational when it's used to justify claims and conclusions.
Mm, I agree.
So we all benefit from incorporating some non-rational realities into our existence, and the the difference between an NI type and an SI type is that the NI type is likely to keep as a memory the transformation
Okay.
rather than the process.
Okay. I understand that.
Do you have those kind of transformative perceptions on religious experience and or drug experiences?
Um, I witness them often in religious experiences. I myself, I practice Buddhism, and I feel like that in a way has like shifted the way that I see things. I have mushrooms, but I've not taken them yet, and I was going into them with the belief that I will experience a perspective shift, and so
I mean, you will while you're on
yeah, I mean, like
them.
afterwards, after the fact, like taking what I just went through and what I've seen, because I would hope that I'm able to still document like what am I looking at, like what's at least just like a rough sketch of like the things that I might possibly be seeing, and
Well, everything moves around.
so I've heard.
Everything
Yeah.
moves around, but it's like I don't see there being a lot of meaning in the visuals, but other types do.
Okay, kind of like seeing the unseen, like the fourth dimension, if you will. It's kind of like seeing the things that are there, but we just don't have access to unless we have those certain stimulants.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the case that when you're on DMT, everything looks very much more architectural.
Mm,
So,
okay.
like, you can really see the lines of things and
Mm,
things and the shapes they make and stuff.
mm-hmm.
But I've smoked a ton of it, and I still never met any elves. And everybody who meets the elves say, "Well, Eric, you just must not have had real DMT or something." Bullshit, man.
Stuff, yeah, the real stuff.
I go hard or I go home.
It's either all or nothing for you.
If I'm going to do something like that, might as well. Now, with mushrooms, it's a little different. Rachel
Mm-hmm.
and I will probably get mushrooms again. Maybe
Mm.
today. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow. But
Oh, nice. Oh, you are in LA.
yeah, well, they're still not legal, but we've got a
Sure.
good connection, and I guess they're not really that hard to get.
And yeah, yeah.
So when we do it, I think we both like to take a relatively small amount of them.
Mm-hmm.
One time we accidentally split a whole quarter of them, and I was glad it happened, but that was a little heavy, and I was really subdued like for a few days afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, there's this weird stream on the day after we did that, in
Uh,
which I suggest people just ask Rachel questions because I don't really have anything to say, which is
mm,
very unusual for me.
was it was it kind of like the feeling of like a bodily high? Were you just a little too comfortable, too sedated, or was it you were just out of it?
No, I mean I was live streaming the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not accustomed to being that bonkers.
Oh, I got you. I understand. Yeah.
So I live streamed for like 4 hours, and I was just mostly laughing the whole time and doing things like I went to get a cup of coffee, and then I yelled at it for not being hot enough, and then I apologized to the coffee for yelling at it and things like that.
So you were still feeling the after effects of the drugs.
The next day I was very subdued. I was very like, okay, that was like a double fisted punch to the brain,
Wow.
and I felt.
Talking to the coffee cup.
Yeah, well, I felt like I'd exploded in a bunch of erickiness, just like unrestrained erickiness, and then I was sick of Eric, and
Oh.
I thought like, oh, that was just, and plus I was just sort of like mentally dull from the impact.
Mm.
So
So how long did it take to like wear off, or for you to get back to yourself?
a couple of days. The other thing is I probably wouldn't have had exactly that amount of that kind of after effect if I hadn't also been on Adderall.
Oh, okay. So never that combo again. I'm assuming.
No, I like the combo.
Oh, you like the combo? Is this a nice combo? It's just too much at that time.
It just changes the after effect a bit because you got mixed into it post Adderall, which is more of a downer kind of a feeling. So it's like
Okay.
mushrooms usually leave you in the aftermath of them feeling happy,
Mm-hmm.
and rather than just subdued. But
Mm-hmm.
in the aftermath of that, because of the combination, I think I was just left feeling subdued.
Okay. I understand that.
Okay, so as far as being a TI dom goes, do you don't seem like a TI dom. I haven't heard what I would call naturally occurring TI, although I might not. Naturally occurring TI is something like this. So last Wednesday I went to see, actually it was last Tuesday. Correcting yourself about unnecessary details is a naturally occurring TI thing. But okay, talk to me about solving problems. Give me some more examples of problems you've solved and how you went about solving them.
Solving problems. Mm, I haven't had a problem that needed to be solved in a while. How do I go about solving problems? Just kind of, I just do. I just do it. I haven't had a problem
Like,
that I needed to be solved. If someone else needs it,
like your car breaking down, or
if my car breaks down, then yeah, I'm gonna Google, make some phone calls, and have that fixed.
okay,
I'm not handy with cars, especially. Oh, okay. I have an example. So when I was about 12 or 13, I came home to my dad changing his tire. So he showed me how to change the tire, and then went about his day. But up until probably 2 months ago, I've never changed the tire before. I know the process, but I've never had to do it. And so my girlfriend, she had a flat and she had a spare in her trunk. And so I went and changed her tire, but I couldn't remember the exact steps. So I YouTubed it, looked at it, and then did it.
and was it without incident?
Yeah, but I followed the steps like step by step.
All right, cool.
And I think like when it comes like following things step by step, something that happens is like I will get upset if someone like jumps to something without like letting me know what did you do? How did you get to this part? I need to see like this little middle ground because I'm just not technically inclined to be able to just make those kind of jumps.
Okay, interesting. Um, I need to go
Same.
refill my cup of coffee.
Oh, for sure.
God damn it! Oh my god! What could make me more mad at myself than that? Oh, Eric! Fucking tard! Don't leave things in the middle of the room like that.
Interesting. all good.
Okay, so the incident of knocking over the trash can has made me realize a good question or a good thing to talk to you about, which is I'm going to describe what I know happened yesterday, but didn't figure out until after the fact. And I want you to see if you can come up with anything comparable from your own experience.
Okay.
So yesterday, Rachel and I were sitting here doing whippets, and there's 50 whippets in a box.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't keeping track of how many whippets Rachel had left because I can't see inside the box.
Okay.
But I had my hat with my half of the whippets in it on the floor. So she could see how many whippets I had left.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, she gave me one loaded, which is to say, she's handing the whippet thing to me. It's already loaded with one. She's giving me one of hers, okay?
Okay.
And I was like, oh, thanks. Because sometimes I do that for her, and sometimes I don't, depending on how much I've been eating whippets. Then, after I had done that one, then the next time it got back to me, I had 3 whippets left.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I did all 3. And then I handed it back to her, and she was done already.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she had just finished 2 before me. Later, I realized that she had handed me that loaded one, being aware of how many whippets I had, expecting me to do 2, which is the standard, with my last 3, and hand her the last one, loaded as a reciprocating thing. But I didn't pick up on that until later, and it was too late.
Mm.
Can you come up with a comparable example of FE nonsense for me?
FE nonsense of not realizing something like that.
I mean, the nonsense part being this whole keeping track of who gets the last one and wanting to be like, and the whole like give and take thing.
I don't know. I would say like, especially with my partner, it's more of a competition of like who can give more kind of thing. It's kind of like if I give and she's like, okay, if I give 1, she's giving 2, and then I'm giving 3, and it's kind of like it's like a competition.
Okay, when you're in bed together sleeping, do you worry about how much you're rolling around or making noise?
I do worry about how much I'm making noise. Yeah. I try not to move around too much, but if I do, it's like slow movements. Like, all right, cool. You still asleep? All right.
So do you try to fall asleep after she goes to sleep?
No, I try to fall asleep before she goes to sleep.
Okay.
She snores, and I try to be out before I hear that.
Okay. Do you ever wear earplugs?
I do, yeah. But I also fall asleep listening to audiobooks, so I usually have.
I used to be with a snorer as well. Do you often sleep in different spaces?
No.
Is it important to her that you two share the same bed all night?
Yes.
Is it important to you
that we share the same bed all night?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's as important to me as it is to her. I like sharing the same bed, but if I fall asleep on the couch, okay. If she falls asleep on the couch, I would prefer her to fall asleep in the bed, regardless of if I'm in it or not.
Right. Okay. Rachel usually sleeps on the floor.
Like naps on the floor, or
No, like
I sleep on the floor.
Because she's so disrupted by the other person in bed, she prefers to sleep on the floor. And the main reason she's so disrupted by it is
Mhm.
because she's so worried about whether she's making noises that might bother me. Concurrently, I'm worried about whether I might be making noises that might bother her,
Mhm.
but not nearly as much because I already have my routine. I make noises when I first get into bed. I go rah 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 and I stretch and I roll around and I first I lie on my back flat for a while, but I know I'm never gonna fall asleep on my back flat. I have to lie on my side to fall asleep. But I get relaxed on my back. Hopefully the
Okay.
kitty comes up here and I pet the kitty.
Oh, that's
Kitty stands on my chest and we have loving times. And then when I'm tired of petting the cat, that's usually when I roll over to make the cat get off of me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then after I roll that direction, I usually roll the other direction when it's really time to go to sleep.
Okay, so what do you roll the first direction for? Does that just
Because
get
I
you?
want the cat on that side of me.
That's very specific. Okay.
Because if the cat's on this side of me, then it's between me and getting out of bed to go pee.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't want to have to get up around the cat, which is what I end up doing. It's not like I get up
Mhm.
and therefore dislodge the cat. I end up having to do this complicated get out of bed routine to get up around the cat without bothering the cat.
Okay. Okay, I understand that.
Do you have an equivalent level of detail regarding your own sleep habits?
Nope. Or I would say I have like a position that I end up in, and that's kind of the like this position, and then like on my stomach with either one of my legs, one of them up.
Okay, that's totally wrong. You're sleeping wrong.
It's just like a natural, just kind of thing that my body just kind of goes through. Yeah. Or if there's snoring involved, if she's snoring, I'm on my whichever side is like the opposite of her. Like I'm facing that side, and I have that AirPod in.
Right.
hmm And so I would say like that's probably the most routine, like because she likes the side that she likes to go to, and then I'm on the other side, and then facing the other one, AirPod in, stuff
Now,
like
is there are the sides both preferred and optimal, or is the optimal side not preferred?
I think the optimal side is preferred. Um,
What makes your side of the bed better for you?
in my bed, it's she's closer to the TV, and so whenever we're laying down watching TV, I'm longer than she is, and so um, if she were behind me, she couldn't see the TV as easily as I can see the TV being behind her. And then in her bed, I'm just closer to the bathroom, and I get up more.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It all makes perfectly good sense. I wonder what it means. I've never really asked these questions at this level of detail before, but so I'm not quite sure what it means.
Well, what means?
What your answers mean?
Oh,
Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to ask this question of some INFJs and see if they're able to give this level of SI detail. I still think you're an NI type,
okay.
but your capacity to give this level of SI detail is not inconsistent with SI6, which still leaves us at ISTP, ISFP.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess let's get to the meat of it and ask some more TI questions and see how you do on those.
Okay.
You've caught me at a moment when I'm having a crisis of faith in in my ability to interpret TI question answers for a variety of reasons. But I
Okay.
will try. Hopefully, necessity is the mother of invention, and I'll come up with some new approaches here.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm gonna give you an explanation,
Okay.
and I want you to tell me to punch holes in my explanation to tell me why it's bad or wrong.
Okay.
All right. So, you know how girls all like Audis a lot? Well, I've got an explanation as to why that's the case. You see,
Audis.
Audis, you know that Scandinavian car, AUDI?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Women love those things. Anyway, I've got an explanation as to why. An
Okay.
Audi's shape is kind of curvy, like a woman. More curvy than, say, your Lexus or your other equivalent class of car, your BMW or those things. Those things, you take a BMW, it's got a lot of road hugging quality to it, but that also makes it bumpy. Audis, they're rounder in shape and they're rounder, therefore, in their ride because roundness is commutative. And anyway, um, they also I've noticed most of the Audis I've noticed are brighter colors. They're not so much black. So the thing is, men like darker colors like black and blue, dark blue, and women like brighter colors. So for all of these reasons, that's why women all like Audis.
Okay. So you want me to punch holes in that?
You yeah, explain to me what's wrong with my arguments.
Okay. I feel like you gave the attributes that women like, and then you placed them on to the car. And so they like things that are shaped like women. And so a car is shaped like a woman, so they must like a car. But I guess which that could be a reason. Men like darker colors, whereas women like brighter colors, and Audis are lighter colors, so they like Audis. But I think it's just they like the brighter colors, and they might like the color of the Audi, but probably not the Audi, unless it's a brighter color and shaped round because they like round shapes, and so I guess they could like that. And then they ride smoother because they're round. I don't know anything about like how cars ride and why they ride smoothly. I would guess it's like the road, and so maybe they were just driving on like a bumpy road, and maybe that's why it was bumpy versus like smooth road. But I don't know what that has to do with the car. Although I do know some cars ride better than other ones. I don't know what it is that makes the car ride better, but in my opinion, I don't think it's the shape of the car. There's some like really small cars ride well, and I would assume really big cars ride well as well. But
I don't think a TI Dome would be nearly that nice about calling bullshit on something like that. It makes me wonder. And you also showed some good extroverted intuition there too. Um, but I'm not. The thing is, I've never asked this kind of question before. I'm gonna start trying to ask it. But so I don't have anything to compare against. I'm an SI knower, which means I rely on having comparable previous examples to know what things mean.
I understand that.
So I can't say exactly what that means, but it's it's lending me or leading me towards uh, more in the INFJ range and less in the ISTP range because it does seem contraindicative of polar NE, but I can't really say for sure for the reason I just said.
I understand that.
But additionally, your TI seems more third slot than eighth, although both those that's a very iffy distinction to make. But let's see if I can ask a couple more traditional TI questions. Let's see. Let's say that if 17 nuns visit the Vatican, a miracle will occur. And a miracle occurs. Can we conclude that 17 nuns have visited the Vatican?
If they visit, a miracle will occur, and so a miracle did occur. I mean, there's a possibility,
So, not necessarily?
not necessarily, but it's probable.
Okay. Uh, the tomatoes will die if and only if
If
it
only.
if and only if it freezes.
Okay.
Good news. The tomatoes are alive.
Mm-hmm.
Can we conclude it hasn't yet frozen?
It has not frozen.
Okay. When Timothy took the bar exam,
Mm-hmm.
Julie was jumping rope.
Okay.
And as soon as Julie started jumping rope, all the dogs in the neighborhood began to howl.
Okay.
Now, additionally, if both the dogs begin to howl
Mm-hmm.
and Judy jumped rope,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll receive a shiny red apple in the mail. What can we conclude?
I don't think you can conclude anything. I don't know what happened to the guy taking the bar exam. He kind of fell out. Judy jump roping. When she started jump roping, all of the dogs began to howl, and then I don't remember where it went after that, but I didn't really follow where he was going.
Okay. Well, that was a very tricky question because normally when one states things in questions like that, one states them without unnecessary adverbs like when.
Mm-hmm.
So I took regular premises, but I told it in story form, and then I
Mm-hmm.
switched to logic language. So
Okay.
uh, it the answer was you can conclude that both she jumped rope and
Yeah.
that the dogs howled
Okay.
because uh, the last thing only occurred if both those things happened. But I already told you both those things happened, so you're not really
Yeah.
concluding anything, you know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
That makes sense. I understand what you were saying.
okay. Let's ask you some more any questions. I probably just didn't spend enough time asking any questions.
Okay.
I'd like you to explain to me why people's ears begin to grow more hair as they grow older. Give me some possible explanations.
I would have to make things up because I
That's
have
that's what
absolutely.
I want you to do is make things
Oh,
up.
just make stuff up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's just a natural part of aging. The older you get, especially for men, whenever you lose like your hair, it seems like you grow hair in other places. Like,
Yeah.
your body kind of just overcompensates for not having hair up top, and so it might grow out your ears as well as like on your face. I haven't really seen people growing more like bodily hair as they get older, but I would say maybe it's just your head trying to compensate from not being able to produce hair up here anymore and just like sprouting out right there on your face.
Okay, can you come up with any other random ideas as to why?
I'm maybe just like the older you get, the more things that are just collected in your hair, or in your ears. Um, it's just your body's way of trying to fight off any unnecessary things that might have been sitting in there. So, like water, for instance,
Yeah.
this happens
Oh,
in dogs, especially.
hold on one second.
Somebody at the door. All right.
Hi, Dad.
Get this finished.
Really need to get this straightened out.
Oh, this is my favorite.
I got a guy that now I have a thing that says remote, and it doesn't. Look at this. All right, so
A lot of people grow hair in their ears. It's old age, maybe a disease. That'd be tough. Maybe it's the food that you eat is producing more, whatever the stuff that you produce to grow hair. take some pills, supplements to just make you grow more hair. It comes out your ears, it comes out everywhere.
And how do you restart your phone?
Maybe after 60 years old, something kicks in. It's time to grow some hair in your ears. Angel.
Alright, check it out the restart.
Yeah, every time, okay. But even after that, it comes up. I think when I was a password.
Okay, well, I will connect you to the password. Let me, can I get back to you in about 15 minutes? I'll do something minor.
Okay, you can have the phone, but I just, I need to have it done some errands.
Okay, I'll have to wait for you to get back.
Alright, both the G and the regular requirements of password, and then Robert just showed the plan. And it doesn't, it's an automata, and
Those are other people's Wi-Fi.
I understand it, I don't know why.
Your phone's just picking up available Wi-Fi.
Alright, I'll see you hour and a half.
Okay.
2 hours.
I'll have it fixed.
Okay.
Alright, thanks. Sorry about that. My dad is having problems with his phone, in particular with connecting to the Wi-Fi. You might be muted.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're muted.
I was asking you what happened. Okay, cool.
So,
That's nice. That's nice.
you know, when you're in your 80s and the phone's saying things to you, it's a cause for alarm.
I can imagine. That's actually funny. It was nice of you to help.
Okay, so how many synonyms can you think of for the word coquettish?
Say that one more time. What was the word?
Coquettish.
Coquettish.
Yeah.
Synonyms. I don't know what coquettish means.
It's like this. Oh, you.
Something similar to that. Flirty, shy,
Mm-hmm.
could seem obnoxious.
Okay.
What's that word? Not promiscuous, but like, I mean, possibly promiscuous. There's a word that I'm thinking of. Tempting. Do you know the word I'm thinking?
Tempting?
It's like, it's a synonym for tempting, I guess.
Syntacular?
What does tentacular mean?
It's a sin that seems spectacular. Therefore is tempting.
That's not the word I was thinking of. Dang, what words have I said?
You've said plenty. I don't think you are anypolar. I think you're not anypolar. And therefore, I think you're an INFJ.
Okay.
I think I got you wrong last time. I think I didn't test extroverted intuition enough, and you are in fact not extroverted intuition polar. You've given me multiple instances of what I would consider beyond polar extroverted intuition. Additionally, for things that I don't usually rely on to type people, there are a bunch of subjective things that suggest you're not an ISFP as well, which is typically when I type ISFPs, I find the session drags a bit because I feel like I have to be responsible for all the conversational momentum in both directions.
I see.
I didn't feel that way with you. That's not a good reason to type somebody something. You know, it's just my
Mm-hmm.
feeling, right? But
Yeah.
it is consistent with INFJ more than with a lot more than with ISFP.
Okay.
You you do have a lot of FE grace, but it's hard to distinguish for me between ISFPs and INFJs because they both have a lot of grace. ISFPs is only by virtue of never saying too much, you know.
Okay. Okay.
Your tastes are, I'd say, more consistent with INFJ than ISFP.
Mm.
You're wearing a pretty cool shirt. Also more consistent with INFJ than ISFP. I mean, that's a pretty cool shirt.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Um, so do you ever get mad about the snoring?
No. It's like I understand it's not. It's like you can't control it. You can't stop it from happening. She does try to wear breathe right strips, and so if anything, I would get mad about not wearing the breathe right strip.
Hmm.
I don't get mad about the fact that she snored. You can't do anything about that.
If you do get mad about it, do you say something?
No. I think I'm more passive aggressive, and I'll just kind of like I'll just get up, and then she'll be like, "Oh, was I snoring?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna go play my game." That's kind of how that happens.
Sometimes people are slow to pick up on that shit.
Oh, was I snoring? No, no, no. You're fine. You're fine. It's all good. It's fine. I wasn't sleepy anyways.
I have to be hyper attentive of Rachel doing that shit and reading what it actually means and stuff, you know?
Mm. Do
I
you
think,
just ask? Do you ever just ask? Like, I don't know what's going on. What's happening here?
um, no, not usually, because as soon as I realize that I've been missing something, I understand the whole thing. It just
Oh, I got
it
you.
just takes me a while to realize I've been missing something. She
Okay.
probably has to drop a couple of cues
Hmm.
before I.
But she never outright says like, "Okay, you're not seeing it. This is what I've been wanting you to ask. This is
But
what I've been wanting you to do."
Rachel
Right.
and I never have to have those conversations because we're both FE and we're both intuitive.
Okay. Okay.
So neither of us wants to be the FE fail spot. But fortunately, Rachel doesn't really absolutely value the FE like I do. So
Okay.
she kind of lets me win.
I see. I see. I see.
And what she
Okay.
gets in exchange is I don't really value fairness from a selfish perspective in the way that she does. So she gets to be selfish.
Okay.
But selfish about fairness.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. I understand that. Huh.
It's a nice deal. It's like it's the way it works with the 2-3 like that is you get one person's currency is the other person's well, the currency one person wants to pay is the currency the other person wants to receive, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa.
Do you guys talk about love languages at all?
We have, uh, for both of us, I think the operant love language of the relationship is verbal words of affirmation.
Oh, okay.
I have to remember to hug her and stuff because it's not something naturally. I'm not naturally a a touchy person, really, but I like it, but I just never remember to do it.
Ah, I understand. Understand.
I think she's probably a little bit more physical touch than I am, but she doesn't want to feel like she's smothering me. But she wouldn't be. But
Mm.
INFJs are super careful.
It's like you aren't giving it, so it's like maybe he doesn't want it back either.
Right. It's not that I don't want it, and she's always
Mhm.
like asking permission to like give me a hug or something. Can I give you a hug? You don't
It's
have
just
to.
not the
You don't have
forefront.
to ask me permission to give me a hug.
No, does she ask for permission often? Like, can I hold your hand or
Yeah,
anything like that?
yeah, all that kind of stuff. Well, she not everything anymore. She's gotten conditioned to my thinking that's silly,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's her default.
Interesting. What about like giving gifts? Do y'all gift each other things off?
I think both of us dislike gift giving as a love language, but
Okay.
it could be she's adjusting to me again. It's hard to say. You know, it's like what's
You don't
easy.
like
What's easy for me to say is, "Wow, we sure are compatible." What's hard for me to say is how much of that is Rachel adjusting to me.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Huh. Have you ever asked her about that?
We've had some conversations about it. It's mostly
Mm-hmm.
me explaining, as usual,
Mm-hmm.
what I now understand that I didn't previously. I tend to forget to ask Rachel, but the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, when you're asking her about something broad,
Okay.
it puts her in a position where whatever she's going to say, if it's a complex question, it's going to commit her to an answer that she doesn't necessarily want to commit to one way or the other. And so she'll often sort of make observations about that, or observations about about the question rather
Mm-hmm.
than really answering it.
Mm. Interesting. So what do you do when she does that? Like, I'm sure you know like that's what she's doing. And it's do you ever redirect her back to answering it?
Well, no, because I also understand that she's doing that because, to some extent, I'm behaving in a way that's pushing her towards an area of discomfort. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Okay.
because she's my relationship partner and
Mm-hmm.
not anybody else in the world, except maybe my daughter too, but she gets special treatment. I avoid her discomfort rather than pursuing clarity or truth.
Mm. I like that. That's good. So how do y'all go about resolving that? Do you give her more time? Do you?
I just see the whole thing as I need to understand more clearly, and
Mhm.
she recognizes that I really only understand things through experiencing them. That even when she tells me things, I, it usually it's like, boy, you sure were right about that thing I didn't listen to, Rachel.
That's funny. That's so funny.
So
That's
it's and I ignoring and learning to use an alternate thing, which is as I trust in Rachel to
mm-hmm.
to do a better job of listening to her.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I could see that. I can see that. That makes sense. Does she also have a very clear understanding of the functions?
Hit and miss.
Head miss, okay.
She doesn't intellectualize this about stuff as much as I do. That's not
Mm-hmm.
the expression of INFJ that she became. That's much more common among male INFJs, I think. This um, female INFJs have available to them the warmth half of FE. They can fake
Mm-hmm.
being warm really easily, and it
Oh,
carries them
okay.
a long way. For somebody like Rachel, who was not in a particularly INFJ healthy environment,
Mm-hmm.
um, she's going to have defaulted a little more heavily towards that end of things because failures at displaying competence would have incurred are easy vulnerability points.
Mm.
You sure do ask good questions. Look at you psychoanalyzing me.
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, look, you elicited a bunch of like really eye-opening stuff right there for me. But a lot of times, I don't know things until I say them out loud.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I understand that. Well, I appreciate you saying them out loud. I do appreciate it.
So, what about you? What about your inner self and your moistly tenders?
My inner self. Honestly, something that I've been struggling with is wondering if I'm a good person or not. And like I hear from other people that they think I'm a good person or they think I'm noble or anything like that. And like I deep down don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm more of a neutral kind of person. Like I want to be a good person.
Like you're going through the motions, kind of, or what?
Nah, just kind of like, and it sounds crazy as I've heard, but kind of like when you see somebody on the side of the road and they need money and I don't give them money, I'm like, or if I have something that I could give and I don't give it, I'm like, how can I really say that I'm a good person and I'm ignoring something like that? Or I see somebody on the side of the road like their car is broken down, or like usually I just keep going. I look at them and I'm like, dang, what if they don't have anyone? What if they don't have like AAA to come tow them, or they don't have anyone to help them?
Are you going to
I
be
can
able to
go.
fix their car?
Absolutely not. I cannot fix their car. But uh, I don't know. Moral support. I see you. I see you over there struggling. Like I don't know. I know anytime I've had my car break down, like I have AAA, but I also wonder. Um, I wonder what this looks like to other people. Like, there has been someone who came and helped me, and I had help on the way, and they pulled up behind me, and they were like, "Hey, do you need any help?" And I said no. I really appreciated that, and so I always think I wish I would do that for someone else, but yeah, I don't do it. I also don't want to seem like a creep, so I pull up and I'm like, "Hey, do you need help?" And I'm like, "I don't know who you are. Why are you approaching me? You don't even know me." I'm like, "Oh, it's my bad. Never mind.
Right, there's FE risk.
My bad. Never mind." And so like that I don't know. I don't know.
Is it? Do you ever think to yourself that you drive by for larger reasons that um, a person can only apply, I guess you would say, altruistic energies to a certain extent for a certain amount of their attention? Or do you think, well, actually giving this person money is going to exacerbate a problem of attracting these people around here?
I do think that. And actually, I was thinking about that recently. So I don't normally give money. I will offer to go buy food. And so it was one time there was a woman out there with her child, and I had never at the time I had never seen someone out there with their child before. And so I stopped and I offered to buy some stuff from HEB. She was standing by me. I went into HEB, like I got stuff. I came out, and she was gone. And so I bought all this stuff that I don't even like. And I have all this stuff. And I thought, like, did she really just want money from me? And since I didn't give money, like I was just used. And so I do think about that. Like if I go and offer to buy someone something and they're really just out here for money, and then I go and I do this, how many people are out there like using people in this way? So, yeah.
I
So
gi-
I don't
I give people cigarettes. I've only ever had one person turn me down.
really. Hmm. Did they
One,
give you a reason?
they don't smoke.
They just don't smoke.
You know, one homeless person out of all the myriad people I've given cigarettes to,
Mm-hmm.
only one time did somebody
Really?
turn me down.
What? How was? What was your reaction to that?
I was like, oh, okay.
Did you offer anything else, or were you just like, well,
No, I was like, okay, well, have a nice day. You know, it's like, what are you gonna
yeah, that's
say?
all. Yeah.
She
Wow.
doesn't smoke.
Okay.
Okay, I am revising my typing of view to INFJ.
Mm, okay.
I just didn't test your NE enough. I jumped to conclusions.
Okay. Um, I don't have the best understanding of what any is. So, like, if we have any time, like, could you explain what any is? Like, what is that?
Well, the it's basically uh, you could think of it in some sense as the negative space. So if NI coalesces clarity about what a given thing's identity is, extroverted
Okay.
intuition intuits therefore what it must not be. And the way it plays out in terms of communication is any expresses divergence, expresses things that are as disparate from one another, combines them into a single idea that is both referential of some existing notion and also deviates from it to some extent.
Okay.
So, in its best functionality, it notes when NI singularities are inadequate to constrain our
Mm,
inventiveness.
okay.
Uh, NI DOMs and NE DOMs get along well because both types are mapping types, which is
Mm-hmm.
to say, extroverted intuition draws the map, introverted
Mm-hmm.
intuition knows whether it's right or not, among other things.
Okay.
And there are four kinds of functions: knowing functions, action functions, determining functions,
Mm-hmm.
and reaction functions.
Okay.
Knowing function, if you know about the identity of things as they are, regardless of the self, then you're using intuition, NI. If you know about things in terms of how they link to the self, then you're knowing via SI. So when I said, well, I'm not sure what this means because it's the first time I've asked this kind of question, what I
Mm-hmm.
was saying is I need to use my SI knowing function. I need to link it to another object that I have experience with in order
Mm-hmm.
to know. Whereas I'm also aware of the NI conclusion that I'd like to jump to about it, or
Yeah.
possible NI conclusions that I could jump to. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
trust any of them. That's what makes me NI ignoring. And
Mm-hmm.
so to say that somebody's an NE DOM is to say that they are ignoring NI. But you'll note that in ignoring NI, I'm potentiating a number of different possible NI style conclusions. So I have to be both ignoring it and versatile in operating in its currency. Well,
Mm-hmm.
so is the case with you and extroverted intuition. You're ignoring it, which is why you ask questions like, you mean just random stuff? Rather than just producing random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that ignoring quality that misled me into thinking you were polar because I didn't test it enough last time. With enough testing, the NE polar test is quite definitive, and as demonstrated here in this session, I saw lots of instances of good extroverted intuition,
Mm-hmm.
which is much more suggestive of fifth slot, namely, when pressed to use it as a subject, you you will demonstrate the capacity to do so, but you'll constantly ignore the possibility that it's well used thereas. You're accustomed to being a receiver, to hearing extroverted intuition and drawing with your intuition conclusions about it.
Okay. Okay. I can see that.
Okay. Anything else?
No. I tried not to watch anything about any before coming into this because I didn't want to pre-rehearse anything, especially when when I rewatched the interview and I thought about you asking me to tell you a story about the turtle and the barn dance, and I didn't tell you a story. Like I just kind of painted the picture that I thought of, and it wasn't until afterwards I was like, "You did ask for a story," and
That's
I
it, and that's ignoring, right? It's like me saying I realize after, like you asked, do I ask Rachel a lot of questions? And the
mm,
answer is no, because I've been ignoring it, not
mhm.
confused by it.
Mm, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So yeah, I think INFJ is the correct typing of you. I think there was a fair amount of pushback on my typing of you during the last premiere. Anyway, I think a number of people were saying INFJ. Uh,
They were until the end, like the NE. They were like, "Up, nope, polar NE," and I was like, "Okay."
I just didn't
Uh,
test it enough, and this is sometimes going to be one of the problems with the approach is, uh, I can there are a number of functions that I could do a lot of different kinds of little tests on, but uh, there's a finite amount of time, and it's like sometimes I screw up.
I understand that.
So okay, thanks very much. I'll stop this recording now. Are you comfortable with me publishing, or would you prefer I share it with you privately?
I'm comfortable with you posting it if you're cool with it.
Yeah, sure, of course. So I will put it up then within an hour.
Okay, I will ask if you ever come across that episode with the dog.
Oh, look, if you just Google someday and Kong,
Kong. Okay,
that's the dog's name in it. Okay.
okay, because I was putting dog episode and it was like it wasn't. I don't know. It was just showing me different reviews of the show in general. And
Just put in Kong, and I'm sure you'll find the episode.
okay, cool.
All
No,
right.
thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one.